Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to paint a jellyfish. I have my 140 pound 100% cotton watercolor paper here. This is cold press. It has just a little bit of texture in there. And I'm going to start with just a very simple drawing because most of the jellyfish is just very free-flowing. So I'm going to just kind of do the dome on top of my jellyfish, and I'm going to want him kind of curving around here. So I could either do kind of like a C shape or like kind of a backwards S shape. And I want to kind of make his top like he's kind of headed off the side here. So I'm going to draw just a simple kind of gumdrop shape. Kind of have him come out a little bit and then around. Kind of get them balanced as much as you can. And then inside there's also another little kind of dome shape in there. And let me fix that just a bit. Okay, so he's got, try to make it close to the other side. Like that. Get rid of some of these lines. And I want to make this as light as possible because he's transparent, so you might see some of these pencil lines in there. So we want to do them as minimal as possible. You see, I got a little smudgy on my paper here. Now stay tuned because we're going to do something really fun in the end. I'm going to show you how to make just a loose impression of some water. That's really a fun technique to learn, something I haven't done, I don't think, on my channel yet. So that'll be a lot of fun. So that's the very last part of the video. So just once you get your little drawing kind of tapped in there, get rid of all your excess pencil marks that you don't really need. There. Okay, so he's there, and then I'm going to have him kind of coming around like this. So I'll put my pencil and eraser to the side, get all the dust off from my eraser shavings. And now I just need to decide what color I want to make him. So I'm going to do a little bit of water in the background. So that's going to have some, teal-y colors, blues, greens maybe even. So I'm going to not use that for my jellyfish. The jellyfish, I think, could be almost any color. I see a lot of videos and they're, really rainbow colored to very plain or very white. So I think whatever color you choose will work out really nicely. And I'm trying to find my number 8 brush, which is buried here under my palette. So I'm going to start with the number 8 round, and I'm just going to put water all inside the little domed area here. Just plain water. I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to just drop in some color. So I'm going to go with purples and pinks with mine. I think that'll be pretty. So I'm going to start with a little bit of purple. And I want to make them darker, like towards the edges up here. I'm just putting in purple, just kind of dabbing it in. And I'm not putting too much in the middle at this point. Not that I'm going to leave it blank, but I'll show you. Put a little bit of purple in here. And then I'm going to use a little bit of opera pink, which is going to blend with my purple. And that's very fluorescent almost. It's a super bright color. Go there. Rinse off my brush, and then I'm just going to put a little cobalt, a little bit of the cobalt blue, and I'm going to go right up to my line. And using the side of my brush, I'm trying to make this nice and smooth. This is going to be done in layers, so I'm not too concerned about the final color right now. So I'm going to add more to it as we go. So I'm just kind of laying in some color right now. And I'm going to just take water on my brush, and I'm just going to move it around a little. Fix that little edge there. I can still barely see my pencil line. And I'm just going to come back with a little bit more of my blue, and it's got these little sections kind of up here, so I'm just going to start putting them in, and this is all going to diffuse into it, but it's just going to be a beginning of where these sections are going to be. And then it has like a little rounded section here too on the top, so I start put that in there. Get some blue. And then just a little bit more of my purple I'm going to drop in just a little bit around that edge there. And maybe a little bit kind of going up here. So just kind of randomly, I'm not putting it in too much of a straight line or really concerned about the shapes. I'm just kind of blending, getting some of these colors put down, because this is kind of like a background. And I like that little pop of pink I have right there, and I'd like to put it a little bit elsewhere. This is the opera pink. And I think just on the bottoms of these, let's put them in like that. And I'm just going to let that paint start to move around. And now I am going to grab a flat brush. So this is a 3/4 inch flat brush, 1/2 inch would do, whatever you have. And using those same colors, and while this is all nice and wet, I'm going to start with a little bit of that pink because it's my lightest color that I'm using. So you always want to work light to dark with watercolor. Okay, and just in the center area, I'm going to kind of take this on a slight angle, and I'm thinking of ruffles. Think of ruffles. So I'm just going to touch it into my jellyfish, and I'm going to wiggle it around and turn and twist my brush. And I'm thinking kind of loose, kind of ruffles. And I want it to be a little smooth, not dry brushed, because this is wet paint on dry paper, which is otherwise known as the wet on dry technique. So this guy, he's kind of ruffling around like that. And while this is wet, I'm going to come back in now with some purple. And where I think that my ruffle might fold under a bit, just kind of guessing a little bit here. I'm just dropping in some of this purple here and there, not making it solid. I want my pink to show through. And then I'm also going to come back and put that blue in also. Just adding some color, breaking it up. There's my blue, a little bit more. And I want it to be kind of smooth, so I'm coming back now. Just wherever it looks like a little too dry brushed, I'm smoothing it out a little. Okay, so there's one. Pretty easy. We're just going to repeat that same process. Now they can overlap, that's fine, but kind of coming out of, I'm just thinking ruffle, ruffle, ruffle. So I'm just turning, see, I'm just turning my brush and letting it twist. Kind of keeping an eye on my shape. You know, as far as what direction is it gonna go. It kind of went a little wild out there. Maybe this should be a little thicker. Keeping it smooth. And I'm gonna bring it around. And I'm gonna come back then again with the purple. Dropping in my purple. Just, you know, here and there, you can kind of see it gives it a variation, which is very nice. And then coming back with the blue. So it's all kind of going right into the dome of the jellyfish. More blue. Can be darker, more intense in places. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my pink and do another one. So let's see, where does he want to go? So let's start here, get it a little bigger there, and I'm going to cross it over. Looking up my shape. I'll make that one longer. A little bit wider areas. There we go. Same thing, I'm going to come back now with my purple. Put a little bit of this purple in here. And then back with the blue. And then kind of where he's crossing over, I'm putting that blue for sure in those areas. Okay. All right. So now I got to keep an eye on what's happening over here. So this is wet on wet, so the water, the paint will follow the water. So the water was all wet in here. I put wet paint over here. You can see a couple splashes, which is no problem. But... And now I'm getting these blooms here because this was wetter as this was drying, and it'll make a bloom. But you can just play with them a little bit. Make it work in your painting. And then you can mop some off. So I like to use this GOTS 1000 toilet paper because it's very thin. And I can wipe off some of my paint, rinse my brush off, and just kind of work in here, wiping it off. If you don't wipe it off, you're just adding the paint back onto your painting. So wipe it off in between. And then kind of work your little sections how you want them to be. Rinse out my brush. Grab my round brush again, because I kind of liked those little pink little spots down here, and I lost them. So there we go, get them back. Alright, so now we have some of these thicker, ruffly tentacles going down. Got some opera pink, that's pretty fun. And right in this line, I'm going to just get some plain water and I want to soften that. I'm not ready for that yet, although I'm going to define it probably a little bit. But right now, I'm not ready for that. And I'm just going to take some plain water and just tap it into that area where it was wet. I don't think it'll do anything at this point up here, but we can try. What that's doing is kind of creating those blooms intentionally. So I'm going to drop some in my ruffles. I can get it off there. There we go. And it'll just kind of move the paint out of its way because it's wetter and heavier, and it'll just add a little bit of texture to the paint underneath. It'll move it around a little bit like alcohol, rubbing alcohol does. See how it just kind of breaks it up? Just more interest in the painting. So I did that up here. And I still want to kind of smoosh that in a little bit more. Where my little dome is. Just kind of control that. And then you see how it's doing, this is wetter and it went into the dry paint. So I can, at this point, I can move that a little bit. I kind of like it right there. I'm going to leave that alone. I like that. I like that. Okay. So now it's all kind of drying. And now I can decide a few things. Like, do I want to make it a little darker at the top? I think that would be really pretty. So I can come in here and I got purple on my brush. And I'm just putting it along this top part. Because there's like this little round thing there, like the top of the jellyfish. Got a little bit of splash going on. It's not a problem because we're going to do some background on here, but just don't want to make it too defined. Because then you're saying that you got to define all of your painting. Maybe I don't want to do all of it. There, so just a little bit darker right there. And now I'm going to watch it as it dries. So as it's drying, I'm getting these really cool little blooms from splashing the water on there. I like that a lot. I really love these ones here on the edges. So all the things that I like, I just leave them alone. If I don't like them, I just can take my brush and just move it around at this point, because once it dries, you're more locked into it. You can fix things, but it's harder to do. So we just try to do it while it's wet and make it easy on ourselves. There, you can see a couple of these where I splashed the water, you know, kind of went out of the line. So I'm just going in and making it look intentional. I was supposed to do that. That's what I meant to do. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so because I splashed the water on and all these blooms are coming up, I want to let this dry naturally. Not using like a hair dryer because it'll stop the process right away. So this will let it kind of do its thing. I really like how this is separate from this one behind there, so that I'm going to use to my advantage here in just a bit. So I'm going to let it dry naturally and we'll come back. Okay, so we're up dry now. Just allowed it to dry naturally, and you can see we have all those beautiful little blooms in there. So I think now is the time to kind of enhance some of them. So, well, first of all, let's finish this dome. I forgot about that. So I'm going to come in the purple. You could use blue. You could use the pink. The pink might look pretty cool, actually. I'm going to change my mind. How about that? Let's use the pink because it's very bright, and jellyfish are electric, so you know, they kind of glow. So I'm going to take that line, and I'm using about the consistency of whole milk here, and I'm going to draw that line. I'm coming in just with water, and I'm softening just one side of it. This is negative painting technique here. So you can see you have a nice hard side and then a soft side. So just take your water and then blend it. And blend it in. And come back. So I got that same color, that opera pink. And I'm putting enough paint on my brush so that there's enough paint to move. If you don't put enough paint on, when you come back and do this step with the water, nothing will happen. It'll just stay right there, kind of like what I did right there. But you can scrub it a little bit with your brush, get it loosened up, and get it moving. So in this case, I kind of want that kind of glow definition in there. But now I'm going to take my purple and just playing a little bit with it. Not everywhere. You kind of want to keep it some spots so it looks transparent. So just keep some spots with nothing in there. Okay, so there's my kind of inner dome there. I'm just going to let that dry. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let's splash on some water. Let it dry with some water on it and break it up even a little bit more. Just a little. There we go. Just like that. Okay, we're letting that dry. And now I'm going to come down and work on these. These are all nice and dry. And I'm going to play a little bit with my metallic paints here. I have a white. And I'm going to take my finer brush. This is a round brush, but it's got a super nice point on it. Number 4, round. And I'm just going to put water, clean water, in my metallic paint well. And you gotta kind of let this get activated, if you will. It needs to have enough water, and then I don't know if you can see, these little pigments will start floating and swirling. And that's what you want to see. You gotta get this stuff mixed with water really well, and just keep mixing it until you get a thicker consistency, because we're going to just draw a little bit or paint a little bit of some details in our ruffles, and it's going to have just a little bit of this metallic in there. But you can see, maybe if I move it up a little closer, can you see it? It's pretty thick. See it on my brush? I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's enough paint on that brush that it'll show up. So I want it more opaque. Okay, so I got quite a bit on there, so I'm just going to tap it off my brush just a little bit because I want to keep that nice point on here. And all I'm going to do is just kind of play with these kind of ruffly things, and I'm just going to make kind of zigzags with my metallic paint here, so it's not going to show up too much, but I can draw some little lines coming up. And come up into there. And this kind of came around here. So let's give it a little ruffle into that. And this one's going to come on top. So I'm just going to bypass it. So this isn't, I mean, you're not seeing this really prominently. You could draw this in if you did want it to be a little bit more prominent. You could draw it in with a white gel pen, or you could, black, you could use black, you could use colors. Just be creative and do whatever inspires you. I'm just kind of making this a little bit ruffly. This is definitely coming this way. I'm following the marks that are made with the blooms in there, so just kind of following them. I'm just doing like a little zigzag. That's just the best way I can describe it, but it's nothing too fancy. Have it coming down and around. And this metallic is just for a little shimmer. I think, you know, things in the ocean are all shimmery. Maybe they're not, but that's just how I kind of interpret it. So I'm just adding just a little detail here. And little zigzaggies. Think of them kind of like curtains or ruffles. So that one kind of ended there. Alright, now I'll come back to this one here. Same kind of thing. Gotta add a little bit more water to my white shimmery paint here. And so let's make this one a big. So it doesn't show up a whole lot, but just enough. Just enough. When it gets in a certain light, I bet it would show up a lot, so. I'm sure there's all kinds of variations on this as well. Not sure what's going on there. We'll just put a few in. Just kind of doing my zigzag. Zagging. But every once in a while I'm just kind of putting a little pleat in it if you would. That's what those little lines are, kind of. And so we have this one here, so maybe that probably has a line there. Going into that one. And then we'll just kind of do this here. So I'm making it up as I go. Just making it up. Jellyfish is kind of hard because they don't have a lot of definition. I guess, you know, they're jellyfish, so kind of hard to think about, you know, how they would be. So I'm just thinking ruffles on this thing here. Just going down. You don't even have to do this stuff if you don't want to, if it doesn't seem to make sense to you. I'm just trying to have some different levels of interest to look at. That makes sense. Okay, so there's my little metallic ruffles in there. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse out my brush. I'm gonna let this dry, and I'm coming back up to here, okay? So this is not quite dry, it's still semi-damp, which is good because it'll diffuse rather than being exactly where I painted it. It'll kind of mix and blend into the paper a little bit more. So I'm gonna come back now with some of that pink, and I'm gonna start, oops, stick my hand right in there. Bit off here. So there's these little kind of circles right in here, and I'm doing them loosely. I'm gonna come back with my water here in a minute. I'm just kind of putting these, kind of reminds me of an alien spaceship. Okay, like the windows. The windows in my spaceship. Whatever you can think of, whatever works for you. I know sometimes I have weird descriptions. Okay, and then right here, and then one in between. Okay, that one came up a little higher, so now you can see I stuck my hand in it. There it is, on my hand. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take some clean water. I'm going to have a background. It's not going to be a big deal, but I'll just show you how to fix something like that. So it's still kind of wet. You got to do it right away. But it's just clean water with my brush, and then lift it up with my my tissue there. Okay. Let's put my tape back down. Alright, so there I have this part of my jellyfish. And now I'm just going to take that brush with some water, and I'm going to soften these outside edges a little bit. Make them less defined. They're going to kind of touch each other. And I just kind of want to have a little bit of that circly look. I just have water on my brush. Just kind of defining them a little bit more. Okay. All right, and now I'm going to come back. I think I'll let it dry. I'm going to let that dry first. All right, so these still has to dry a little bit too, but we're going to do some of these long tentacles coming, and those are super easy to do. Before I do that though, because I'm going to do that in the darker blues and the purples, I'm going to work on the background just a little bit. Okay, so this is that fun part that I was telling you about earlier, because we're almost done, believe it or not. We don't have too much more to go. And it's pretty fast, easy painting to do, and fun. So I have here just some plastic wrap. You know, just regular old plastic wrap, nothing special. And I have cut it into smaller strips. So I have like 3 of them, you know, maybe about 4 inches of that saran wrap here. And we're going to press this into the wet paint. And when we press it into the wet paint, it's going to leave a pattern. And the pattern to me looks like water. So it's, you know, doesn't matter that it's all stuck together like it is now, but I'm just trying to get it a little less stuck. I'm going to lay that to the side. Okay, so now I got to think about where do I want my background. I don't want to do the whole thing solid, but I don't want it to look like the background is just on the outside and there's nothing on the inside. So that's why I'm going to do it now, because we can put a little bit of that background here, and then when we draw our little tentacles for the jellyfish, the background will be behind. Okay, so I am thinking now like kind of, so I've got this swirl going on. So I can continue on with this swirly look, which kind of makes it look like it's swimming through the water. So that gives it movement. I like that idea. Or I could come back and just make it just soft and very gentle. And, you know, like he's kind of just floating in the water. I can do that too. So if I did it that way, I would kind of start him not in the very dark, not in the very center, but maybe coming off here and coming across it. But I kind of like the idea of the action going on. So I'm going to start it here and have it come through. So I'm going to take my pretty fat brush here. So any brush that'll hold a lot of water. And we're just going to start with just water. I'm going to just take it, and like I said, I'm kind of going to do the C motion that he's in a C. Do I want to start it now? Yeah, so we'll kind of just keep it in the C motion. Oh, you know, I just had an idea. Okay, I'm going to do two things. All right, so I'm just going to take my water. Oops, you can see I didn't rinse my brush very well, but it's okay because I'm going to put some blues. Not going in every single spot. Okay, so this is like the top of the ocean. Usually, a lot of times you see the jellyfish when you're looking off of a pier and they're closer to the surface. So I think that would look really cool in there. So I'm just going to come around. I'm not touching the jellyfish itself if I can help it. Okay, so then I'm just going to come around. I'm going to add in some in between, and then I'm going to come in around here, maybe a little bit right in there. Trying not to touch too much because it will reactivate all of that. I'm thinking I might want a little bit here and into this corner. So not every spot is wet. Not every spot is wet. I'm leaving some white spots, and that wet dry paper, because when I do that, these white spots that are in between that I didn't want to mess with too much make sense, if you will. Okay, so we're just coming in this motion right here, and then I have some on the top. So I'm going to take my blues now. So I'll start with my lightest color, and it is kind of a aqua blue and watered down a bit, and I'm just going to start just very loose, not in every spot, but just adding some of these water movements, and then right in between a little bit, and you can see I touched it there. We'll kind of try to make that work. A little bit there, a little bit down here, and we will push that into this. Okay, so all around, in between a little bit, just dabbing, just a little bit coming down into here, into this corner as well. Okay. A little bit on the side, like that. That should be enough. That should be enough. And then I'm going to take some blue, the cobalt, and just add this color and let it mingle in with the water and this aqua. I'm trying not to touch my jellyfish too much. And I'm just gonna dab this in, dab this in. If you hear some squishy marks, that's my husband walking by. He's trying to be quiet and not disturb me. He's going outside of my back door, so of course it's all locked and everything, so a little bit of noise, but that's what that is. And husband there. Okay, got a little bit of blue. Now see how pretty that is as it's mixing in with this aqua color, leaving some white areas. Not too dark either. We don't want it too dark. Okay, so that's really pretty. And what we're going to do next is take this cellophane. So right up here where we're going to have some of the sunlight kind of shining through, I'm going to stretch it horizontally, and see those lines that it makes. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to lay it right on top and push it down, and I can make some little ripples in my water. So see where it's all kind of gathering up underneath that plastic wrap? Make sure that edge is, that's what you're going to get, those kind of marks. So you can kind of play with it and manipulate it at this point. Okay, so I'm going to take another piece and I'm going to stretch it. And I want to still work on this area a little bit, so I want to work on that dome. So I want to make sure. Now when you press this down, it will move it, and it might go right into your jellyfish. So kind of watch that. And I kind of like that movement that's there. And I'm going to take another piece. You know, this one even can be a little smaller. Stretch a little bit. And I'm going to kind of bring it around into these. Okay, so now I like kind of how it's a bigger, so if I just lay it on there, it's got like bigger cells, if you will. Okay, and I think I'll take one more piece of my plastic wrap here. So after you're done putting your plastic wrap on, what's really good to do is just kind of put a book on it to hold it down and hold it flat. Okay. Movement going on in there. And in some places it is gonna run over into your jellyfish. Not the end of the world. We're just trying to avoid too much of that. Okay, and I want to put just a little right there. So now what you can do is put a book on it or something heavy to kind of hold it down in place, but you can't take the plastic wrap off until it's dry. So there. And I'm going to push this down so you can manipulate the direction of your weights. Okay, and see, like it kind of went over there, but after I can come back and touch up a little bit. But yeah, so now you just want to take this, and if you got some heavy stuff, or it doesn't have to be really heavy, just to hold it down while it's drying. And I got alcohol here, anything, see? And here's another paint set here I can put on there, and just something to hold it down flat. So the more, it can hold it down, it'll make a definite pattern in there for you. So everything I have on my table, I'm putting on there. Okay, so I'm just gonna sit that all on there and let it dry, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back, and it's had a little bit of a chance to dry. So you can see all the cool patterns that the cellophane left in the watercolor paint. So it just kind of looks like there's movement in the water. I'm going to soften out some of these edges by just adding plain water on my brush. Make sure it's rinsed out really good. I'm just going to have a number 8. And like some of these edges here that kind of don't make sense, I'm going to add some water and just kind of scrub them just a little bit with my brush here. We're going to add some splatter, so that's all going to take care of itself too, but in some spots I thought it would be nice. There's something stuck there. Some spots I thought it would be good to just kind of soften it out. It's not going to disappear completely, but just kind of soften it into the background. See how it's moving a little bit now? Back down to this one. Just softening it out, swirly motion. And we're going to add a little bit of the tentacles and some splashes, so it's going to look good, but just loosening up some of the paint and moving it more into the background. Filling it in a little bit. Just with the paint that I'm scrubbing up off of the brush here. Whoops. Leave some white because we don't want it to look funny if there's a white spot somewhere. But softening it up. Now here you can see it really kind of bled into it. I can define that a little bit too. But like right here, it just looks like I took my brush and just put it in a couple blobs, which I did. So I want to try to hide that. You can see that, by putting the water on it, activates the paint underneath. So you want to do that only where you want that paint to be activated. And make that go into nothing. There, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit right there. But I don't want to do it to where I'm wiping out the pattern I just put in there. Swirly motion. Okay. And maybe a little bit up here. Just softening it. Make it not as bold. Just like that. Okay. Alright. So now I'm going to take my blow dryer and just dry this really nice. Okay, not completely dry, but good enough for what I'm going to do next. So now I'm going to just fix some of these, like this one right here. So I'm just going to take water, get some purple paint, and I'm going to do a little bit of negative painting. So I got enough paint on my brush, and I can move it around, rinse my brush off, coming back, just softening that out and defining it as I go. That'll define that. I got that metallic under there that It's moving, so if I wanted to, I could come back and touch that up. I'm not too concerned about it. Just wherever you think it kind of washed out and you want a little bit more definition. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Do a little section at a time. And just use the color that's in your background. A few little spots. Put some pink on this one. Just blending it out. And since I put that there, I want to make sure I got some somewhere else, because that's pretty bright. And maybe a little bit on this right here. And I'm going to come around, put some here. Okay. One more spot down here. There. I think that'll do it. So that's kind of fixing all those smudges, you know, that the cellophane made. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry. Now while that is drying, I'm gonna work on the dome, and I'm going to turn my paper around. That's the beauty of painting on top of a board like this rather than taping it to a table. And I'm going to go back with this white pearly paint that we used to put in here. This is going to be subtle as well. Using that number 4 brush with the pointy tip. Okay, so what I want to do is bring up some lines. So I'm going to start, where do I want to start? I'm kind of defining these little guys, and then bring like some lines that are kind of curved, everything like towards the top here. Curve it with your jellyfish. Now this is kind of like a butterfly, where they have so many different patterns and you can do so much here. So do whatever you like to do on yours. I see people put flowers on it. I don't know if that's in the wild, it would be like that, but it's pretty unique interpretation. And you can put some little, you know, dots in here. Little dots up there, it's kind of cute. You can make up your own pattern, whatever feels good to you. Just kind of fun and whimsical. Any color paint you want. I like sparkle. So of course I'm using some metallic pearly white here. Just a fun little painting. It's up to you to decide how many is too much. Just get just enough, right? You don't want to go too much. Or how much is just enough? So I'm kind of not making them all exactly the same. So some are a little bit long, the lines are longer, less dots, more dots, whatever kind of fits in. So up to you. All right. Okay. So I have those there. And then here. Just some little lines coming up, almost like mushroom gills. All right. I think that's enough. Okay, so now let's turn them back over. And you can see those little metallic-y lines in there. I'll bring it up a little closer, kind of try to get the reflection in the light here for you. There, oh, that one shows it better. So you can see it on certain angles, but it's not really super prominent. All right, so now I want to do all of these long little tendrils that he has. I'm going to use that same number 4 brush, and I'm going to dip into my purple, and I'm going to make this pretty dark. So I'm going to have it the consistency of like heavy cream, because I want these to show up pretty good. So I'm going to hold my brush at the back like that, and off of each one of these little circle-y things I can have a tendril coming out. So we can start oopsie, there we go. Just kind of doing it loose. You can curl them like that. And if you have some spots on your painting that you really don't care for, cover it up with a tendril. Yeah. Okay, so then I'm starting them from both sides here. Let's see. So I see in some spots I skipped, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. And I don't want too many of these, but kind of going in the same flow. Same flow as your jellyfish is going. Okay, this one here, I don't really care for the skip in this one here, so I'm going to go back over it. Okay. And let's see. See how he's kind of shaping up? some more in here. They don't all have to go all the way down either. That can go right off. Here. And maybe it needs something going this way. Like that. Okay. And now on the ends of the jellyfish, you can, I call them like little feathers. It's like a little feather on the end. These little tendrils here. You don't have to get every one of them if you don't want to. I think it just kind of adds a little something. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably good, like that. And if you want, you could put a little metallic dots on it, if you know, in there if you want. So now I'm looking at my painting, and I'm gonna stand up and give it a good look. But do I want to move my water some more, or do I like it how it is? I definitely want to add splatters because I think that always kind of finishes it off. So it's kind of pretty how he is, isn't he? I kind of want to put a little, whoops, let me get a little bit better paint on here. So this one little edge here I noticed kind of got squished out with the cellophane. So I'm just going to take my water here, soften that out. So yeah, it's possible to fix things. A lot of people say, oh, you can't change watercolor once it starts. It's partly true, but partly not too. Partly, you know, works out okay. All right, so now I'm going to take that number 8 round, and I'm going into my blue, and I'm getting a big juicy brush full of watered down blue. I'm going to make splatters. So I'm going to get the blue, and I don't want too many splatters on my jellyfish itself. So what I'm going to do, I don't mind if it's in this part, but this part I kind of want to keep more defined. So I'm just going to take some toilet tissue here, just kind of lay it on top. So then it'll hit that and won't get all over. So I did that. I got my brush full of paint. I just dipped it in the water, and I'm just gonna hold it up. And because I dipped a lot of water on there, I'm getting big blotches. It's up to you what kind you want. Put a few out here. Okay, so the dog's barking because somebody just came over. Of course, always every video my dogs are barking, or someone's talking to me, or the phone rings, or I have a bunch of text messages, but you know, it's life. It's how it works around here, so that's what we deal with. Okay. So now I've got my splatters there, and I also really want to put that aqua color. So I'm following that same motion. And I got those big juicy droplets up here. I want to get that swirly going on. Like that. Okay. Alright, so now let's take this off, and voila! No dots on the dome. Alright. Except one little guy got loose there. Okay. Okay, so there you have it. A nice, easy, simple watercolor jellyfish for us. All you have to do is sign it. What I like to recommend. Okay, I think the dog's calmed down. We're back. Well, we're almost done anyway. I just wanted to show you what it looks like after you put it in a mat, because that always makes things look pretty. So you put it in a mat. So this is 11 by 14 painting. And this is a 16 by 20 mat with 11 by 14 center. So what I like to do with the mat on it is sign it, because sometimes if I sign it before I put the mat down, I'll sign it in the wrong spot, and then you can't really, it gets covered up by the mat. So everybody loves to see your signature, so I kind of like to incorporate it in somewhere, and I am just going to sign it right here along the little tentacle there, and I like to sign with my micron pen because it's easy and I don't write too well with the paintbrush. So there you go. That's my finished painting. I hope you enjoyed my video today. Look for one just about every week. We do one. Sometimes we get busy and we don't get one out every week. Me and my husband. My husband is the one who edits everything for me. I just do the painting part. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you for following along. If you're painting along with me, send me a picture or send me a comment if you'd like me to paint something in particular. I love suggestions. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. And until I see you next time, I hope that your days are filled with peace and love. Bye-bye.